How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Reel Night. Today we are doing the RNR for season number 2 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I know, this is not what you're looking for. I get it. You're looking for season 3 to start, and it will. Trust me, it's coming probably today, but I did say I was going to knock this out, so let's just hop into it. Before we start, I just want to make sure that you all know that I did enjoy all of the new characters. I think that they add very unique aspects, all of them, to the show. But this is a tier list, and, you know, if I were to give them all an S, then, like, what's the point of doing that? If some get low and some get high, it is what it is. It's my opinion. I'm going to touch briefly on why I gave them the rank that I gave them in the tier list, but for this specific RNR, I think I'm just going to focus specifically on Aang, Katara, and Zuko. The S tier, Katara starting it off. She continues to be a very good leader. This time around, we saw her actually taking on that role as Aang's master, because she is somewhat of a prodigy in her own right as well when it comes to waterbending. I've seen a lot of progression for her with that, especially in the episode when they were storming the capital of Ba Sing Se. We saw a lot of cool moves from her there, and that fight beneath in like the secret underground city area. Of course, we got Appa and Momo up there. I know I left them out in the first one, and you guys let me know in the comments, but they're staples of the show. Appa specifically, you know, his entire arc there in that episode where it was pretty much just him. I think that was very creative and a very unique way to tell his story and tell a story through the eyes of an animal. And I really enjoyed that. Not necessarily what happened to him, but just the concept itself and how they executed it. And of course, tying in Momo's kind of emotions and how he feels about things, and specifically his feelings of loss in the episode right before Appa's Lost Days. We also have Aang in the S tier. Huge season for him. He was learning Earth this time around. We had so many run-ins with the Avatar state this season, and I'm going to be talking more about that later, but really tackled a lot, and he's going through it for what he needs to accomplish, trying to learn all these elements within that certain small time frame that he has, while trying to evade the Fire Nation and trying to prevent them from conquering more territory, juggling all these aspects of being the Avatar and having to have wisdom at such a young age. We have Zuko up here as well. I continue to enjoy his character a lot. He's been, I think, my favorite part of the show. Aang's story is, I don't want to say generic because I feel like, you know, this whole show is pretty unique, but Zuko's story is just so nuanced that it's a lot more interesting to me to watch. Aang definitely goes through a lot of struggles and whatnot, and I still love his character. That's why he's in the S tier, but I just feel for Zuko a little bit more. Moving on to the A tier, Iroh, of course, is up here. Love his character. I've loved him from the start, pretty much. He's honestly exactly what Zuko needs, and anybody around him, too. Toph got his advice this time around. Aang took some advice from him. He's just been that voice of reason, voice of wisdom, just in the general sense, and I really enjoyed that. I know his the voice actor who plays him passed away, I'm pretty sure, so that's very sad to hear, but I don't know what that means for season 3, if we're going to be continuing to see him or not, but I guess we'll find out. A tier, we also have Toph. She was introduced this season. I can see why she would be a fan favorite. Her sort of bluntness and raw talent with earthbending is pretty crazy to watch. I enjoy the tough love that she brings to the table when it comes to training Aang. In this span of a season, she's grown so powerful, and it seems like in most encounters, it's usually her doing some of the craziest stuff. Not to mention like the metal bending that she did in this season as well. I'm hoping that we see some more of that and maybe even expound on that a little bit more. And that is another aspect that I really liked about this season, was the different subcategories of bending. Swamp episode where the guy was bending the plants, the water inside the plants, honing in and sort of narrowing down different styles of bending, and I really like that. It really shows the interconnectedness of everything within this world. In B tier, we have Sokka. I really like him. He does provide a lot of comedic value to the show, and I also think he's grown as far as being understanding and a little bit less quick to judge things and people based on like gut reactions like he was in season 1. So it's nice to see that. We've also got to look at his strategic mind on multiple occasions. Sometimes it doesn't go as planned, but he does come up with a lot of plans fast, and I mean, we found out that he kind of gets that from his dad, so that was cool to see. Azula, she was mainly just a force to be reckoned with, an antagonist. She was introduced kind of like a Zhao. Okay, like she has more nuance than Zhao did. I'll give her that. But this season, we didn't get too much nuance, and I'm looking forward to seeing maybe more of that next season, because I'm sure since Zuko and Azula are now, I guess, teamed up, we're probably going to be seeing a lot more of her and their interactions with like Zuko, maybe even their father if they go back to the Fire Nation. So I'm looking forward to more from her character, but this season, I think she was just that whip at their heels, keeping them on the run and trying to chase them down, specifically Zuko too, which was, it was fun to see that. But beyond that, like she's still very formidable with the lightning bending, with the strategy that she has, with her intelligence, and I like her as a villain a lot. That was the tier list for season 2. Let me know what you guys think in the comments where you guys would rank these characters. Let's talk about Aang. This season was a tough one for him. Not like season 1 wasn't tough for him, but I think there were so many new challenges for him to face in this. And so many harder decisions for him to make here, because season 1, we were just kind of contending with time, kind of contending with Zuko, but he wasn't as tenacious as Azula is, and he wasn't forced into a lot of situations as he was now in season 2, dealing with the loss of Appa, dealing with the Avatar state, his loss of control, dealing with his growing feelings for Katara, kind of pushing him in a direction of, I want to say, irresponsibility, in the sense that he gave up, or potentially gave up, the Avatar state for Katara, which is not a responsible move, but an understandable one for how he feels and the dynamic that they have. A lot of tough calls for him to make this season, and I would say a lot of them made sense for him, the way that they turned out. Facing all this as a kid, I can understand why so much of this would be difficult, but I think him going through all this now, and getting through this, when he comes out the other side of it, and as he grows older, it's just going to make him like 10 times the Avatar that he is. Just because he had to do this and face all this so early and go through so much, the loss of his entire civilization, being the last Airbender. It's sort of all of those factors kind of came together and kind of presented themselves this time around, as a lot of things do when stress is introduced into the mix. But Katara was the emotional anchor for him here. She had quite a bit of development this time around too, which is kind of why I wanted to focus on her as well, and her relationship with Aang and the rest of the group. Early on, she was dealing with a lot of emotional discomfort with Aang being in the Avatar state. She really didn't like to see him like that, with that loss of control and the potential for harm that he could cause to others without his intent being there. He didn't have control, and that was one of the aspects that she really didn't like, because in turn that means that she can't really help him to control it. But as we saw in the desert episode, she was able to sort of calm him down, bring him out of it, and I think that was a huge episode for her. That entire arc with Appa, I think Katara stepped up and showed those natural leader traits. Each one of the characters did have their moments of coming in and helping out, which does go to show how good of a team this is, how good of a group. But I think Katara stands out the most, specifically when they were going through the desert. She was the one to kind of bring them all together, keep them going when everything seemed to be a loss. And it harkens back to season 1. I mean, episode 2. She was ready to leave the tribe, go with Aang, to do all these things and to help him, but also to get some help for herself as well. And I think that that's just carried forward throughout the rest of the show. Ever since that moment, she's been the main one, the first one to believe in him, the one to get him out of the iceberg, or to start the process at least, the first one to, want to help him and want to be a part of the journey with him. And I think their relationship just continues to be a mainstay and a recurring theme that really dictates the narrative of the show as a whole. I mean, from Cave of Two Lovers, when they were kind of trapped together and they had to find their way out, to again that decision by Aang to potentially leave behind the Avatar state for Katara. It's a big deal. And yeah, the writers are definitely hammering home how important that is to the story as a whole, relationship between the two of them. So as I was predicting last RNR, we did get a lot of Iroh and Zuko on the run, kind of trying to fly under the radar, being inconspicuous, even getting all the way to Ba Sing Se, open up a little tea shop. It was really a lot of fun to see that, and I wish Zuko had had a little bit more time in that life to kind of heal, change his mindset, grow his mindset, because he was going through that metamorphosis, as Ira was saying, and I think if he had had more time to truly continue in that, the decisions that he made later on in the season, specifically the last one that we saw where he chose to go with Azula, I think that might have gone a little bit differently. I'm still kind of hesitant as to whether or not he's truly trying to help her here, or if he has some kind of other plan in mind, because I'm sure he's not going to just leave his uncle to some kind of bad fate or to whatever the Fire Lord might want to do with him. You know, his brother, he has no respect for his brother, as we've seen. You know, he was trying to supplant him when he was out on the front lines going into Ba Sing Se. But internal conflict has been a major theme for Zuko this season, struggling with his identity, with his sense of honor, what that means, what honor means to him, trying to step back from the expectations of his father and what other people want for his life, and trying to think for himself as to what he wants to do and what decisions he wants to make. I don't think I can say it better than Iroh said it.
I know my own destiny, Uncle.
Is it your own destiny? Or is it a destiny someone else has tried to force on you? It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
And Iroh's patience is so integral to Zuko, and the loss of that patience in that episode, I think, is what hammered home Zuko's change. Letting go of the blue spirit, letting Appa escape, letting him go. And that's why I'm just so hesitant to say that Zuko just went straight back to the Fire Nation, but it could happen, you know. It's been his entire life that he's been in that mode of honor, into the mode of being the Fire Lord's son and being the prince of the Fire Nation, and having to uphold that the best that he can, and grasping onto that because that was really all he had once he got banished. And now letting that go, I can understand why that would be scary and why it would be easy to fall back into that if he truly did. I don't think that it's going to take too long for him to understand that Azula and his father are not very good people. Azula has her own situation going on, and she's definitely been raised and indoctrinated in a way that, you know, she acts the way that she acts from a very young age. But I think that there's even just a little bit of innate sensitivity in there, you know, just from her father, I guess, because even her mother was like surprised by her mindset and the way that she acted.
What is wrong with that child?
As I think some of you said in the comments, you know, this is as much as Zuko's story as it is Aang's, Zuko alone being a prime example of that fact. Although, you know, Appa did get his own episode too, and I don't know, maybe we'll get a Momo episode at some point, but this is just kind of like a light sprinkling, sort of just to spawn discussions. Nothing groundbreaking here, but this mostly just serves so that you guys know where my mind is when I'm going into season 3. As far as predictions go, I think that I've kind of already touched on my expectations. Assuming that Zuko is going to go back to the Fire Nation, maybe we'll see the Fire Lord. Maybe we'll get some interactions there. Maybe he'll be working from the inside, kind of like a double agent. I don't think he would be trying to dismantle them at this point. I just feel like he feels lost, and he might need some direction, even though he gets a lot from Iroh. I'm not entirely sure of Azula's intentions when it comes to this stuff. I think that she has ulterior motives, and we have yet to see what those motives are. I can assume that it's probably she wants to bring Zuko in, like her father wanted her to, and this is her way of doing that, sort of a roundabout way, kind of like she was trying to do in the first episode, trying to get them on the ship quietly, peacefully. I think that might be what she's still trying to do. Aang has learned Earth. We have to learn fire. He is the Avatar. He has to touch fire if he's going to master all of the elements. He's still holding on to that trauma of hurting Katara when he first tried to bend fire. He does still need to do it, so I think we're going to be touching on that a little bit next season, or maybe a lot, I don't know. But I think he needs to find out something about firebending before he tries to take on Fire Lord Ozai, because that's going to be a huge fight, I think. And I really don't think he's going to be able to take him on alone. It might come down to like a everybody's been defeated except Aang type of moment. Or maybe it's Aang gets defeated and everybody has to come in and help him out, and then at the end he like comes in, and yeah, I'm not even gonna like try to guess how it's gonna go, but I think it's probably gonna go one of those ways, because I can definitely see a coming together of all the nations, because we got a little bit of a hint of that in this one with Azula when they were kind of all surrounding her and they all, you know, did their bending at once. And Sokka threw his boomerang in there. I think Fire is going to get some training next season. I don't know from who though, because Iroh's captured, Zuko is with the Fire Nation, so I'm not really sure who that leaves. If he went back to the sage at the temple, at Roku's temple, maybe he can learn from him. But all in all, definitely a very good season. I'm looking forward to season 3, seeing what new things that they introduce, because they did a great job with introducing so many new aspects to season 2 and to the world as a whole, and kind of fleshing out a lot of those different elements. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do that more coming up in the next season. As I mentioned before, this is kind of like a discussion type of video, so make sure you let me know in the comments what you guys think about season 2. No spoilers, please. First 2 episodes of season 3 are coming out today. Be on the lookout for those. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in season 3.